As human beings, as a species, it is quite amazing that we live in a world with a countless number and variety of other creatures. We call them animals. Now think about this. They are not like us, but they all possess the physiology to inhabit the earth. So, the relationship between humans and animals seems to be very natural, for the most part. In other words, we seem to recognize that the animals we know of have every right to be here just as we do, no matter how strange the animal may seem to be. Think about this. How different would our world be without dogs? Could you imagine? Of all the animals that exist, overall we seem to have the best relationships with dogs. Man's best friend, right? Why not monkeys and apes? You ever had a pet monkey? No? Well, there's probably a good reason for that. I know someone is going to be like, "Hey, I had a pet monkey. He was the nicest monkey." I said monkeys and apes, not all monkeys and apes. You're not going to get me with that one. All jokes aside, speaking of apes, you know what, when people first started to encounter gorillas, those used to be Bigfoot to them. People didn't know. They were thinking that there was this big, hairy, ugly man in the forest. Legends and folklore were created because they just didn't know what this gorilla was at first. And see, the point is, at some point in time, every animal we know of was once a unique species to us. Now, with that logic, how many of you believe that dragons once existed? With all the worldwide myths, legends, and folklore on dragons, could they be an embellishment of a real creature? Why not? Because if it were a common creature back in ancient times, you would probably write about it as if it were a common creature. And as some animal species die off and new ones emerge, it is of no surprise that people would continue to encounter, cite, and document what we call cryptids. From Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster to Mokele Mbembe and the Jersey Devil, cryptids are defined as beings, creatures, or plants that may or may not exist, and the existence of which has not yet been proven by scientific observation, whether they are based on a sighting, folklore, legend, or myth. Now, out of the number of cryptids that may exist, how many out of that number have existed or do exist today? Even if there is some evidence of the creature's existence, such as an image or video, footprints, remains, or eyewitness, the creature does not move out of that cryptid category until irrefutable evidence is provided. Now, a lot of cryptozoologists like to categorize cryptid beings really for the sake of organized study. And so many of them don't consider demons, angels, ghosts, aliens, things of that nature to be cryptids, because they are not really animals or indigenous to Earth. But here we are not just going to discuss animals, no, we are going to also discuss humanoids as well. The Altamahaha. This is a 20 to 30 foot dinosaur, like seal, that may or may not inhabit the Altamaha River near Darien, Georgia. Now, when it comes to cryptids like this, I for one don't think that this is too far-fetched. Many of these types of sea creatures are in the fossil record as having existed. Here's the question. If a species dies out, what are the chances of it reappearing in the future? If you haven't heard of Tahoe Tessie, this is a lake monster said to live in the waters of Lake Tahoe in Central California. Much like the Loch Ness Monster, Tahoe Tessie is a long serpent-like creature with a humped back and a long neck. It is said that this creature is incredibly fast. Sightings of Tessie begin back in the 19th century, and what is interesting is that the sightings usually occur in the even-numbered years. There is the Lake Erie serpent, known as Bessie, the Lake Champlain monster, known as Champ. Minneapolis went as far as to install their own lake monster they call Minnie. Maybe they felt left out because there is also the Wallowa Lake monster known as Wally. The Wallowa Paddling Club even has an event where they race in a 20-person ceremonial dragon-headed boat. There is a lake monster in Florida. There is a lake monster in Lake Merritt, Oakland. Speaking of which, let me show you what a local scientist had to say. It was published in the Oakland North, entitled, "Is there a monster in Lake Merritt?" Scientist says yes. It's black, it's big, it has spikes on its head, and its tongue sticks out, says Dr. Richard Bailey, local expert on the rumored Lake Merritt monster and executive director of the Lake Merritt Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to cleaning the lake. It's got typical round monster humps. According to Dr. Bailey, who has a master's degree in zoology and a doctorate in natural resources, sightings of this Lake Merritt monster, which he fondly refers to as the Oak Ness monster, have become more frequent in the past 5 years. Dr. Bailey believes the creature prefers clean lakes, so perhaps it is no coincidence that he says these appearances come with massive lake cleanups that make it easier for lake goers to spot monster-like objects in the water. There were reports of him years ago, he says. The water quality got bad for a while, and then it got better. Lake Charlotte bartender Lawrence Alvarado claims to have seen the beast a handful of times. "I remember the first time I saw it," he said as he prepared drinks at the dockside bar last week. "It went in and out of the water, then disappeared. It was literally right there. I could have thrown a stone at it." Think of the ocean. The truth is, most of us have no idea what could be lurking in the depths of those waters. When it comes to water cryptids or sea monsters, I'm just going to assume that they are there. So if I'm ever out on a lake, river, or ocean, I can proceed accordingly. So the way I categorize these beings in my own head is by the topography and environment where they are sighted. So we go from bodies of water to swamp areas. There is a creature known as a Melantoka. It is more of a legend coming out of the Congo in Central Africa. There is apparently a giant hippo-like creature with a long bony horn, like a rhino. It is a herbivore, but is just as dangerous, if not more dangerous than a hippo, as its name means elephant killer. One of the more popular swamp monsters is the Honey Island swamp monster. Since 1963, this three-toed, web-footed, Bigfoot-like monster has been roaming the swamps of Louisiana. It's been spotted by hunters in the past, and there is even a publicized story about the monster attacking a hunter who survived. Before we leave this habitat, there is another creature you may want to be aware of living in the swamps of Australia, the bunyip. It is said to be amphibious, having a round head, long neck, and the body of an ox, manatee, or possibly a human. People have reported hearing a roaring sound coming from the creature, but some have written its existence off as a lost seal and bird noises. Let's keep moving, shall we? Anybody ever heard of a tatzelworm? This is apparently a creature that inhabits the Alps in Europe. In Germany, they are known as tatzelworms. In France, arasis. In Switzerland, stollenworms. In Austria, bergstutzens. And in Italy, basilicos. Either the word about this thing is getting around, or this thing does. But in this case, we are not really talking about one creature. They describe it as a creature that varies in length from 2 to 5 feet. A wide cat-like head and a wide mouth. Short arms with claws but no legs. Just a long serpent-like tail. Now folks, can anyone tell me why, no matter what the cryptid may be, they always seem to have a statue up in the form of the creature, or some artwork up to attract tourists, I guess. Placed somewhere dedicated to the monster. I want you all to think about that. There are the Yowies, who are said to lurk in the Australian outback, a more timid form of Bigfoot with dark red or black fur. Sightings of Yowies are not common today, but were a big thing back in the 1800s. There was even an amateur adventurer who would offer to catch one for a fee. Obviously, he did not succeed. The Missouri Monster, or Momo, is another Bigfoot-like creature with a big pumpkin-shaped head. It's covered in dark fur and reportedly has a very distinct and foul odor. They are large, from 7 to 8 feet tall, and are very aggressive. The Jersey Devil is another one of these forest cryptids, except like the Mothman, this one can fly. It supposedly inhabits the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. Back in the 1700s, one of the settlers became pregnant with her 13th child. She had offered the child to the devil because she and her husband could not afford to raise it. Since that time, a Baphomet-like creature with wings has been reported, jumping walls, fences, crawling under things, leaving hooved footprints. By the way, this statue is at Devil's Hole in the St. Mary parishes of the Channel Islands. Speaking of giant flying creatures, there are the stories of the ahul. This is a giant bat with a 10-foot wingspan that is said to be carnivorous, which may include humans on the menu at times. Like fruit bats, they have a thick brown or black fur. The claws and legs are more developed on this bat, which gives it the ability to carry its prey away. Don't worry, I'm sure you won't be walking around in the rainforests of Java, Indonesia anytime soon. If you are, I'm sorry. In other parts of the world, there are desert creatures like the grootslang or great snake. It is said to live in the cave of Richtersveld in South Africa. It is another snake monster with an elephant head and tusk and the body of a snake. Great. Probably just a giant cobra, no biggie. How many remember the Arizona demon sighting? Dismissed as a hoax. Some people are convinced this happened and believe they themselves have sighted the same creature. And this is where we really start to get into the creatures that are of a paranormal nature. I would write this off as a possible Mothman sighting if it's not a tree, and then leave it at that. There are certainly a number of creatures, great and small, that we have yet to gain common knowledge of. As the world continues to change and new species of creatures emerge, there is no telling what monsters may lurk in the vast wilderness of our planet. Why do we continue to memorialize or worship such beast? I have more to come on this topic, so stay tuned. It's getting wild out there, and it seems like the cities are really where the wild things are. Until next time, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.